Hello everyone, this is Pico Entertainment and we are back again, and here we have another fun debate video for you, and we're going to talk about She-Ra. And following the recent news that Amazon is in early development for a live action series for the character, we're going to have a fun conversation about who could actually be a live action interpretation of the character, which actress would be most ideal. Now of course, when we talk about She-Ra, previous adaptations include the original 1980s animated show and also most recently the Netflix animated show as well. Now there's been recent online debate about how the fans of the Netflix show wanted much more of an animated movie as opposed to a live action series, and how they feel their adaptation has been disrespected in terms of this live action series, and how it seems it won't be following the direction from the Netflix show. Now this is a certain irony given how much fans of the original show were attacked by the Netflix fans when they were complaining about the certain directions taken with the Netflix show itself. Now to be honest with you, I'm still skeptical as to whether this live action series will actually happen, and it will be interesting to see which direction they go for. Will they go for the more adult version from the 1980s, or will they go for a much more teenager character as what we saw from the Netflix show? I do prefer and favour the 80s versions of the character, so I believe a live action version of She-Ra should be closer to that aesthetic, where essentially she's a very tall, athletic, powerful warrior, yet both beautiful and compassionate at the same time. That for me is the more ideal heroic version and interpretation of that character, really sticking closely to that sword and sorcery fantasy tone. So if we were to have a much more of a hypothetical discussion, much more of a wish fulfillment situation where we could pick any actress from any era in their absolute peak or prime phase, who would be the most suitable live action interpretation of the character? So I'll focus on who I believe were from previous eras, and then we'll have a quick discussion about who from the current climate that we are in now could take the mantle overall for the iconic character. So the first actress I'm going to talk about, who I feel will probably be the most ideal for the character, and that would be Brigitte Nielsen. If you all know Brigitte Nielsen, particularly from the 80s, where she essentially played a She-Ra like character in Red Sonja in 1985. Of course, she played later on Ivan Drago's wife in Rocky IV, and then later on shortly after Beverly Hills Cop. And Brigitte had that very tall, blonde, statuesque figure about her. She was one of the most stunningly beautiful actresses of all of the 1980s. So for me, she would be perfect in terms of just a pure aesthetic makeup. In terms of She-Ra, I think she would look amazing in that costume overall. Again, tying back to Red Sonja, already sharing that similar look in terms of that warrior princess as well. So Brigitte Nielsen would be a great pick in her 80s form for She-Ra. Also tying to 80s, I look at Sandel Bergman, who played Valkyrie from Conan the Barbarian way back in 1982. Just like Brigitte Nielsen, she had that very tall, athletic physique about her. She actually had a background, I believe, in dance back in the day. But yeah, in Conan the Barbarian, she was absolutely stunning. And again, she's got that tall, commanding, very fierce presence about her. So I think Sandel Bergman in her prime would be a brilliant pick for She-Ra. The next choice I would look at is Helen Slater, who played Supergirl from 1984. And she's got a very blonde, very sweet, endearing, charming look about her. I think she would be great. I think she would absolutely look fantastic as Andorra if you lengthened her hair a bit more and you put her in a similar costume, that red and white costume that Andorra wore from the 1980s version. She's got a very innocent and naivete look about her when we compare her to the Supergirl that she played from 1984. Now obviously she's well into her elderly years now, but if we just look at her from the Supergirl phase, I think she would be a very good choice for She-Ra. Another great, fantastic pick for the character would be Charlize Theron. Charlize Theron in her prime could pull her off easily. She's got obviously the commanding presence, but also she's got the acting caliber as well. Oscar winner, if you remember, for her role in Monster. She could play any warrior princess. She could pull off Red Sonja. She could pull off Wonder Woman. She could pull off any character. She's just got that absolute statuesque, diva, fierce intensity look about her. So famous for playing these really action female type roles throughout her career. And if you just put her in the costume of She-Ra, she would pull it off, no worries, instantly. You would have no problems believing in a prime Charlize Theron as She-Ra. So she would be another fun pick. Another good choice, of course, very obviously, would be Angelina Jolie. And I refer to Angelina Jolie primarily when she was in her Tomb Raider days, when she had much more of a fuller figure, and I think Angelina Jolie in this time alone would be amazing as She-Ra. Again, she had that real athletic poise about her, and we look at recently her in Eternals where she's playing Thena, and she still looks great. Obviously she's slightly a bit more aged, but she still looks fantastic in that warrior-like costume, and I just think Angelina Jolie, if you took that look and a couple of years younger, she would easily pull off She-Ra. Again, like Charlize Theron, she'd have another of that commanding presence, so from an acting performance you'd have no worries. So I think Angelina Jolie would be great in the role as She-Ra. Another great pick I think would be Catherine Winnick. Primarily we know her from the Vikings show. She has starred in other films beside that show, but that's her most famous role. I just think she's got a very stunning look about her, very blonde, very tall as well. Easily could pull off the She-Ra look as well as the Andorra look as well. Another choice aesthetically would be Christina Loken. If you remember, she played the Terminatrix from Terminator 3 Rise of the Machines, and just really from a pure aesthetic point of view, she would look fantastic in the role as She-Ra as well. So that would be another fine choice. So that's really the names that come to my mind from previous eras within movies who could be ideal for playing the live action role of She-Ra. But what about today? What about the current climate that we're in now in terms of entertainment? Obviously that's what Amazon would be looking for when casting the actress. Who would they ideally pick? I probably think they'll go for an unknown. We've seen that plenty of time when we've had these iconic characters be played by these unknown actresses. That's fine as long as they can act the role and they look the part. What I really hope we don't see is any kind of race changing that we've seen recently. If you look at the likes of Red Sonja in the cast in the lead role, and also with the likes of Starfire from Titans as well, I don't think they would take that direction with She-Ra, you know, following the recent controversies with the Netflix shows and also with the He-Man Netflix show as well. I think Amazon would be very smart not to go in any kind of race-changing directions with the character itself. So who today could play her? Now, I've seen online recently, following the news of the announcement, a lot of people have been looking at Minka Kelly from the Titan show. Now, she plays Dove or Dawn in that show for 3 seasons now, and yeah, that would probably be the most ideal pick if you're looking for a modern day actress who's currently active at this time to play the overall role of She-Ra. Like, Minka has just got those stunning looks. She's very athletically toned. She actually looks really good in the actual Dove costume. If you look at it from Titans, that's one costume that you would think wouldn't really work in live action, but Minka pulls it off perfectly. Clearly she's in her absolute prime physically as well, and I think if you look at her acting performance as Dawn, she's got clearly of that compassionate feel about her. You know, when we look at her relationships with Hawk and Dick Grayson throughout the show as well, I think she's got enough of that softer side to her, along with the physical capabilities, to easily pull off the role. So yeah, I think that would be one of the leading roles for the character. Another character I would look at is Kate Cassidy, who played Laurel Lance in Arrow for multiple seasons. Now, she's still very young. I think she's in her early to mid 30s as well, and she looked great in the Arrow show overall, and I still think you could pull it off as Kate Cassidy. She's got that very tall, statuesque figure as well, like so many of the choices, and I just think she would be very great in the role. She's got a great smile about her. She could put off that fierceness, that real hard drive about her as well. So I think she would be an ideal choice and a very good role for the character of She-Ra. So those off the top of my head are really the most ideal actresses that I feel could play the role for She-Ra, but it will be interesting to see the choices that Amazon comes up with. I probably feel they will come up with an unknown, if I'm to be honest with you. I think that would probably be the tactic that they go for, but like I said, this is just a long way off. We're just going off the announcement. I'm actually very surprised that they're actually doing a live action She-Ra. I thought they would have waited to see how they follow through with a He-Man live action. We all know, of course, that Noah Centineo was cast as the role, but then he pulled out. So it's hard enough just to get a live action He-Man off the ground, let alone a live action She-Ra off the ground as well. But we'll wait and see what happens in the future, whether Amazon actually go through with it. I'm not so sure at this point, but let me know what you think in the comments below. What do you think, or who do you think would be the most ideal actress to play the role of She-Ra, both in the past, present and future? I think it's just a greater and more livelier debate if we consider all actresses of all eras and we look at them in their absolute prime phase and whether they could actually pull off the role as She-Ra. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and we can have further discussions. And as I said before, I think, yeah, a She-Ra live action film would be great as long as they take much more of that serious tone in terms of that sword and sorcery and fantasy aesthetic. I think a She-Ra live action could be great if they take the character seriously. And like I said before, I would much rather they veer towards the classic 80s version rather than the Netflix version, because I wasn't a big fan of that show overall. But we'll see what direction they take. But as I said before, let me know what you think in the comments and we can have further discussions. If you've got any other further picks that I haven't selected within this video, let me know, and if needed I'll do a further additional video to this breakdown as well. So those are my thoughts on a live action She-Ra for now. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Please also hit and like those subscription and notification and like buttons so I can provide you with more high quality content like this in the future. But that's it for now. Take care of yourselves, stay at safe distances, and I will see you very, very soon.